Last night, I had a dream I was a muffler, Nate. This morning, I woke up exhausted.
Who taught you that joke?
I think I made it up, actually.
That comes from our times back in the Mirage, I believe.
Are you trying to take credit for my amazing joke?
I'm definitely taking credit for that joke.
Did you write that joke?
I stole that from somebody else.
True American heroes. True American heroes.
Welcome back to another edition of Uneducated Men, episode 9. Nathaniel, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Bob. Can't believe we're on 9 already. Our friends in Zimbabwe must be ecstatic.
You see my Zimbabwe flag flying in the background?
Yeah, it looks sharp.
Yeah, I was so excited. I got it posted. I put it up here in the studio, and then it dawned on me, this is a podcast, and they're not going to be able to see the flag. But, yeah.
That's the thought that counts. Zimbabwe, we support you.
Yeah, just so you know, there is a big, gigantic Zimbabwe flag flying in the background here. Well, what everybody wants to know about is how'd the match go, Nate? And unfortunately, it got postponed. We will resume it next week. But I do want to give a little color to the audience that may not know you or Michael. Nate is a 6'2", athletic gentleman, plays sports most of his life.
6'3".
Okay, whatever. I don't think you're 6'3". 6'3", athletic gentleman, plays sports most of his life, is the star shortstop for his beer league softball team. If you see him, he kind of looks like he could be a bartender in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Michael Watkins, who we call the baby giraffe, is a 6'6", non-athletic person. He looks like Walter White.
Has 2 left feet and 2 left hands.
Okay, very true.
And he's right-handed.
Very okay. Last time these two met on a competitive court, Nate ended up with a broken ankle courtesy of Michael Watkins.
Yeah, we were playing a game of basketball, and he thought it was a tackle football.
He's a bully. Now, you would think, based upon that, the athleticism of Nate and the unathleticism of Michael Watkins, that this would be a shoe-in victory for Nathaniel. However, my friends, pickleball is not a game of athleticism. It is a game of skill, and Watkins has been developing skill. I am 99.9% positive that he is either taking lessons or being coached, because he's developing skills that you just don't get at the rec level. He's got good posture. His contact points out in front. He is rolling the ball at the net. And given all that, I'm going to still stick with my bet that Nathaniel will lose by 2.5 points.
Well, I'm willing to take that bet. Next week, we had some technical difficulties this week, but we will resume, and the ass beating that he is about to get, repayment of my broken ankle, will happen.
Well, good luck to you both. We can't wait to update everybody next week. All right, Nate, there's an old saying, be careful what you wish for. We asked for feedback, and we got a lot this week. And this feedback kind of ranged from great show, tough topics, to you are jihadist Christian haters, and you are white supremacist, privileged, racist, basically.
Both sides of the spectrum there.
It was all over the place. And it was the same podcast. It was troubling for me. It was very troubling for me.
I guess we deliver messages to both sides. So kudos to us.
Sometimes the feedback that really hurts the most is when you get it from somebody that you respect. The one that triggered me a little bit, and if they're listening to the podcast, I apologize if I kind of got a little snappity, I guess would be the word. I don't know if that's a real word. Basically, it was white guys of privilege don't understand what it's like to be successful for Abu. And I'm like, okay, but you don't know what we grew up like. Abu grew up in Bangladesh where everybody looked like him. And he was a part of the 1% in Bangladesh. He had butlers and chauffeurs and got to go to a private college in a different country. You grew up on a farm, probably did more physical labor by the age of 15 than most humans do in their entire life. I grew up in a trailer park suburb of Tampa. My parents were truck drivers. They gave us a good living, but when it came time to go to college, there wasn't money for that. So to say that because our skin color is different than Abu's, that we don't understand what he had to go through, or that we were more privileged than him, I don't think that's a fair assessment.
During grade school, I got 1 pair of jeans to last for the entire year. I would get 1 pair of tennis shoes to last 2 years. By the end of those 2 years, my toes are popping through the shoes. I was privileged enough to grow up in a nice culture, traditional part of America, but yeah, I definitely didn't have a lot of privileges.
That's the great thing about America, Nate, is if you work hard, have talent and intelligence, you can be successful in this country.
I agree. And along with actually caring and showing up to work, all 5 of those traits take no education and are free. It's that easy to do.
I agree. We're uneducated, right? And I proudly so. I don't believe that paying somebody for a document is going to make you smarter. If you're in a hospitality school right now, you are paying somebody that you could be doing the same education, getting paid by being an assistant manager somewhere. I went back and I listened to the podcast again because I was like, man, were we racist? Did we say things? And no, not really. There was one thing that we said that maybe you could, I don't know, potentially. And that was that Congresswoman Omar's favorite fruit was a banana.
She said it. How's that racist?
So I'm Somali. I'm proud to be Somali. To me, being Somali isn't just eating bananas with rice.
I just said that's the only thing that I could come up with. Now, I did some research and I actually reached out to the Congresswoman and her team. Actually, she didn't reply. And I asked them, is her favorite fruit actually banana? And they said no. She grew up on a farm in Somalia enjoying her brother's kumquats.
Sounds delicious. Hey, whatever gets you to the country and elected into office.
Kumquats is a terrible word for a fruit. I think when it first came out, kum and quat didn't have the meaning that it had now. And it's just things changed. It actually is the Cantonese words of guamquat. And somehow we made it kumquat. And now it's just a bad sounding word.
Perverts like us. I'm sure there's a lady named Karen down the street that would have no idea what we're trying to talk about.
Karen's a terrible name too. Last week, we talked about Great Britain. Abu basically said who named it, what makes them great. Originally, it was called Britannia. It was French. I don't know if you know this, but a lot of the French kings were also English kings. So think of Richard the Lionheart from Robin Hood. He was a French king. They called it the Big Island, the Great Island in terms of the size of the island, not so much as in its prominence. And it was called the La Grande Bretagne. I probably butchered that. My French isn't the best.
I thought it was Spanish, but good try.
Yeah. At one point, though, they were truly great. They were the largest empire in human history, controlling 25% of the world. 25% of the world. They were really a great empire from just a tiny little island.
And that was more than the Roman Empire ever inhabited?
Yeah, the Roman Empire never really left Europe. They got a little bit into the Middle East, but
they got into North Africa. They got into Asia.
But remember, you think of all the United States, most of North America, parts of South America, Antarctica, Australia. They took over India. Why Abu probably doesn't like them is because they cause a lot of problems in that area. There's a book called Germs, Guns, and Steel, and it basically tells you why European countries like Great Britain were able to dominate the world. And the title tells you all. It's Germs, Guns, and Steel. But the cannon and guns, they got to America, and these guys had a rock and never seen a horse before.
They certainly didn't have the delicious drink in IPA. So if it was not for the English takeover of India, we would not have that delicious drink.
That's where India Pale Ale comes from?
Yeah, it was the British shipping beer over and using hops, which was a preservative. As the beer landed in India and it was over hoppy, they named it India Pale Ale because of the transit on the trip over to India.
Speaking of India, we talked about cows. Abu said that the cow is a deity in Hindu. He wasn't Hindu, he's Muslim, but he lives on the border, said he knew some people. That's not correct. The Hindus view the cow as a motherly figure, a symbol of nature and of giving, and feel that killing a cow who does so much for them but asks for nothing in return, it's a symbolic of motherhood.
Which is wild to me because a cow only has one calf, maybe two at the most at a time, right? So it is a mother, but a very few children, where a pig that they think is disgusting will have a sow will have multiple little piglets, which to me would be even more motherly because you're taking care of 6 to 8 newborns at a time. I think our friends in Bangladesh and India got it wrong.
What I don't understand is we don't eat cows, we eat steers.
That's not true at all.
When do you eat a cow?
Cows get shipped as well. They're not just for giving birth. And it's not like you only have steers. Steers are going to be 50% of the population. There are heifers that also go out to market.
The heifers. So here's an interesting fact about the Hindus, as they will not eat cows, but they will eat buffalo. So buffalo are not sacred as the cow. I guess they don't produce milk.
That's pretty racist. Buffalo should be treated equally as a bovine.
A buffalo is a bovine, is it not?
A cow is a bovine.
I'm not doing too hot today. I also said that Penn stock was trading at $3. It's actually trading at $22, coming off of a high of $115 when this future parent company owner, Barstool Sports, was bought. And then lastly, you would question 72 virgins. 72 virgins is not in the Quran. It actually comes later on. In Islamic law called Sharia law, bombing or killing is outlawed, and suicide is one of the major sins of Islam, right there next to eating bacon.
I've read the Quran, and the 72 virgins was an amendment at the back of the book.
I don't believe you've read the Quran.
Once you get past amen and then it goes into the amendments, that's one of them. So for those suicide bombers out there, you still have hope getting your 72 virgins. Take my word for it.
I'm going to take things that did not happen for 500, Alec.
All right, moving on.
Perfect. Let's jump into the show. One of our super fans named Victor said that we should do some fun facts about the United States of America to celebrate its 250-year anniversary. Victor, man, Victor has an open invite on this show because he is a walking enigma. He won't come on yet. We're still actually pursuing him, but he is a strong Mexican man. And when we had the marijuana debate, I reached out to him. He is a first-generation college attendee where obviously he went and played sports, and that sport was
Figure skating.
lacrosse.
Same thing.
He's a soy boy liberal who played the whitest game with a bunch of probably conservatives, I would have to guess. And he is married to the most badass Republican woman. This is like a Kelly Conway, George Conway thing. I want to get him on to talk about just his whole life because he stays true to his form. We talked to him and he's like, Trump sucks and Biden this. And
maybe he sat on the bench on his lacrosse team and all of his conservative buddies were getting all the play time. They would have their parties at the end of the season, and Victor was not invited, so therefore has a little grudge against Republicans.
I think very well could be. For our super fan Victor, who we hope to have on the show, let's talk a little fun trivia. So, Nate, if I was to ask you, who was the first leader of the United States, you would say?
I would say of the United States, George Washington would be the easy answer.
Yes, and that would be incorrect. The first president or first leader of the United States was a gentleman named John Hanson. I know you're probably saying, well, that's not true. I went to school. I know George Washington.
No. I went straight to Chris Hansen and will you please have a seat?
Yes, you know him personally. Here's the thing. The United States was formed under something called the Articles of Confederation. For 10 years, we were governed under that before we drafted and ratified the Constitution of which we live under today. That Constitution elected a president unanimously, the only unanimous president ever in the history of the United States, George Washington. But before that, we had a Continental Congress, and that Continental Congress was led by John Hanson. Fun fact of the day. Did you know that the fathers that didn't like paying taxes paid about 2% of their total income or whatever, however you want to describe it back then, to the British, where today we pay almost 30 on average and up to 45% to our government. Really kind of crazy when you think of it like that.
I guess it's all objective to what they're making at the time, and most income was probably based on the barter system, so any cash you got, 2% wasn't too much. But nonetheless, working overtime or bonuses get taxed 33% right off the bat. I think it's time for another tea party.
I'm glad that our forefathers went to war with the Brits because they don't have free speech. They don't have free anything. They just recently passed the 16 and under rule or law, I guess, for kids on social media, which we talked about last week. Canada was looking at. You know, Canada just follows people. They don't do anything themselves. But they also have an attack on free speech. And there's a 2003 Communications Act where 12,000 people a year are arrested for posting or saying things that the government disagrees with. There's a recent gentleman that's got, I think, about a month in jail for reposting memes that didn't incite violence, that they just thought were disgraceful. So they arrested him and sentenced him to jail.
Could be the most communist thing we've talked about on the show.
It's shocking.
But at that side of the line, they love to use the word fascist, but that's kind of the definition of fascism to me.
Yeah. How do you put somebody in jail for reposting something somebody else said? It doesn't call it a violence and just found it to be obscene. And we are very lucky to live in the country that we have. I think we take for granted the freedoms and the liberties. It was interesting. We were on last episode. We'd said something and Abu said, you live in America. You have free speech. You can say whatever you want. He's lived in places where that's not the case. And you have to be careful what you say in public, what you post online. We say some dumb shit. We lived in other countries. We'd probably be in the gulag right now.
Well, up until about 3 years ago, I felt like free speech was getting infringed upon, and we were down a dark path to lose a lot of those rights. Today, I think a lot of that has been undone. And to your point, we are lucky to live in a place, and I hope we can continue to speak our minds and to be able to have podcasts and give shout outs to Zimbabwe and talk about nonsense that Britain does.
Not only are they restricting access to social media for kids, they're also blocking VPNs, and a VPN is just a virtual private network, and it kind of masks where you were at. And there's a lot of people that are saying, hey, this is just data. They just want more and more data because I'm sure you know this, the most important thing in the world right now is water. It's not oil, it's water. You control the water. They shut down the Straits of Muth. If you don't have water to drink, in the West, we're fighting over the Colorado River. Also, data. And if you are social media, if you don't pay for social media, you are their product. They are selling you. Everything you do is important to them. So now these laws are making people log in to be followed by the government, to be followed by these social media companies so they can sell this data. And it's a pretty scary thing because I've seen the Matrix, and data is like batteries and they're just storing it and keeping it. I don't know how I feel about this. I really don't.
Which also, again, goes back to infringing on freedom of speech. Will that data be used against you at some point in time? What we see across social media and shopping sites and everything else, if you say something out loud, obviously it's the first thing that populates. But yeah, it's scary times, man.
It definitely is. I know a guy, his last name is Lame W, Lame capital W. You know, that's
Poor little fella.
Yeah, it's a terrible name. And it got me to thinking, what do you think is the worst name to have? You mentioned Karen. 10 years ago, Karen probably wasn't a bad name to have. Now you're just like, shit, I'm Karen.
Wow. What about all the Donalds out there getting picked on right now?
That's a bad one, too. What if you're a left-wing Democrat and your last name's Trump? How bad do you hate your life right now?
You probably change it to Lamb with a capital W.
I worked with a kid. His name was Sheldon Cooper. He was like this big metalhead, mosh pit loving guy. Probably most of his life, he was just Sheldon Cooper, the rock metalhead. And then all of a sudden, a TV show comes out, and now he's associated to this nerd the rest of his life.
What's the male version of Karen? I've seen a lot of posts going back and forth on what that name is. What do you think the male version of Karen is?
There's Darren or there's Chad, I think are the two that come to mind for me.
I recently posted that question on Facebook. The unanimous answer to that was Mark with a K.
M-A-R-K?
M-A-R-K.
Yeah, that sounds like a guy that pops a couple seltzers and goes.
Somebody that blows up at absolutely nothing.
There's a guy on Long Island whose name is Jeffrey Epstein. That's got to be a terrible name. Now, I bet you 20 years ago when Jeffrey Epstein was like the cool guy running New York, you were like, yeah, I'm Jeffrey Epstein, ladies. But now, how terrible is that name?
I'd move away and buy my own secluded island.
You might just go claim it just because, hey, I have the deed to this island. Please give it to me.
I didn't kill myself.
I just got a text from Abu. He said he has a cousin back in Bangladesh named I Sheet My Drawers. That's a terrible name.
Well, it could get you out of a lot of situations.
Yeah.
Pull over. Sorry, I sheet my drawers.
Last night, I had a dream I was a muffler, Nate. This morning, I woke up exhausted.
Who taught you that joke?
I think I made it up, actually.
That comes from our times back in the Mirage, I believe.
Are you trying to take credit for my amazing joke?
I'm definitely taking credit for that joke.
Did you write that joke?
I stole that from somebody else.
Okay, so you can't. I told that joke to this guy named Ed at pickleball. You know what an ernie is in pickleball? You ever heard of that term? In pickleball, you can't go in the kitchen, but you can jump over the kitchen out of bounds and then smack the ball over the net. That's called an ernie. I guess the guy that did it, his name's Ernie. There's a guy named Ed. I call him Ernie Ed because I like to Ernie him and he gets scared. I told him that joke. It's one of those things where you know that he thinks the joke is stupid, but he also is trying not to laugh. So then he turns his head and acts like he's getting something out of his bag. And I'm like, Ed, you like that joke? And he's like, oh, you're stupid. I'm like, well, turn around. He's like, oh yeah, you're that joke's dumb. I'm like, then what do you, he just kept getting mad. He went around like, I'm like, Ed, what's going on? He's like, shut up. It's a stupid, lame joke. Anyway, I told that because Ed's supposed to be listening to the podcast. We'll see if he does. I love when you tell such a bad joke and they just try not to laugh and then they get mad and they call you names. You're an idiot.
You can't deny funny, Ed.
You and I will do a little dad joke off here at some point. Oh, wow, this podcast is just flying along. Yeah, we're probably going to cut a lot of it, actually. Nate, do you use AI?
Probably more than I should, but yes, I do.
What functions do you use it for?
Mostly for being able to do some research. It's great for writing emails that you want to sound pristine, but I mostly use it to make two buddies kiss or something.
Yeah, that's what I do a lot too. So
Yeah.
85% of Americans or AI users use it as a question answering device or wordsmithing, such as resumes or emails, which I use it every single day as somebody with dyslexia. It has changed my life. It helped me write a book, award-winning book, I must say. And lastly, photo generations and things of that nature. It's a powerful tool. There's a lot of terms in AI, and we don't really use AI to its full scope. We haven't really even discovered how to use a lot of it. It's going to be in a place where there's a lot of doom where the AI is going to replace you and AI is going to do this. I think AI is going to make your life easier the way a computer made your life easier, the way the internet has made your life easier.
I think it has been intentionally reduced or dehanced as well. There's a lot of things that I could do when it first came out without any restrictions on it, and all of that's been kind of removed. I can't do some of the dirty stuff that I used to be able to do, put it that way.
There's 4 major AI right now. There's ChatGPT, which is mostly invested by Microsoft. You have Gemini, which is all Google. You have XAI, which is Musk. And then you had Anthropic. And Anthropic, largest investor is Amazon. Big names in the AI space. These are what you call LLMs or chatbots. And LLM stands for large language model. You ask it a question and it gives you an answer. And then what they have next is a token. Have you ever heard of a token?
Yes.
This token is what words get broken down into. Every word gets broken down into a token. Each token can be up to 4 characteristics. Here's the thing with AI and Chatbox. When you ask it a question, it doesn't read the question like you and I read it. What it does is it breaks it down into all these different tokens, and then it predicts what the next word in that question would be. If I said, who was Michael Jordan? It would predict the next word would be Michael, and then is a former, and it goes down the list of predicting what the very next word should be. And that's where you get these hallucinations where it gets stuff completely wrong, but it sounds like it's completely right because it doesn't really know. It doesn't learn like humans. It doesn't understand things. It just predicts what the next word in the sequence is. So it will rattle out this whole long thing that's completely wrong, but it sounds like it's right. And they've gotten better with that. Google will now have the search kind of confirm what it says in there. And it's like, well, yeah, no, not really. And it goes back with something else. But tokens is what every search or AI thing is broken down to.
Yeah, that was not the token I was going for. But I will say, nothing, doesn't matter. My favorite character in South Park. I will say AI, to your point of being incorrect, I've made multiple sports bets or asked for handicapping with ChatGPT. And it will basically rattle off whatever the internet says, right? You ask it to dig deeper with analytics. So then it gets in a little bit more scientific on the handicapping. I have yet to win a single bet. As smart as it sounds, as many reasons as it gives me to bet on that side, it is never right. Or hasn't been for me.
It's not fact-checking itself. It's not going back into memory and deciding. It's just predicting what the next word in the sentence should be.
It regurgitates basically what the internet has to say about it.
Very true. So you ever heard of AGI?
I have not heard of AGI.
So AGI is artificial general intelligence. That means that these computers will start to think like human beings. We just said right now they don't. But at some point, there is a belief that the machines will learn and process information the way we do. That's a scary thought. If you've ever seen The Matrix, I don't want to be in a pod, but we haven't gotten to that point yet. Some people say that will never happen. There's people that believe that we're on the precipice of AGI.
I'm sure it will happen. I just hope it's long after myself, my kids and grandkids are long gone.
There's something called agentic AI. These are all fancy terms. You've probably heard them before, and then people throw them out. So agentic AI is AI that doesn't just answer questions like a chatbot, but it does tasks. So you can specifically program this AI to do things. They do this with something called an agent. An agent is, think of a digital assistant that will do a task. And I just set up some agents at work. And it's pretty amazing. I'll give you an example. You have to prompt it and give it exact instructions, but I can say every Friday, update Nathaniel Headland on the Gantt chart progress that we've had in the week. It will then email you a progress report of where we're at. I don't have to go back and do it anymore. This is where these agents come in. You can have it trained to go pull this data every Friday, make a report, put this together, and it just does it. The agents are really where you're going to see the biggest impact. We just are going to program agents for all this shit at some point. It's really, really fascinating what the agents are going to be able to do. So when you hear somebody say AI agent, that's something we program to do a task.
Something just dawned on me. Have you asked AI or Magentic AI, whatever you call it, to do P&L reviews for you?
Yes.
How does it work? Is it good?
You can tell it what you're looking for. There's 2 ways. You can throw it into the chatbot and say, hey, give me a summary of this. And you can say, I want you to learn to be the CEO of this company that's looking for this, read their press releases, tell me what they're looking for, and now look into my P&L and tell me exactly what it is. We have stuff at my work that goes into your emails and pulls stuff out of your emails, and it says, well, they were asking about this in the last call. Fascinating, man. It's just going to come at lightning speed, right? Once we start to learn it, we didn't know how to use AI 2 years ago, and here we are making pictures of 2 guys kissing that look just like they really are. In some cases, they probably were. Then you have something called open source. Open source is code that everybody can use. That was the original purpose of open AIs, hence the word open. Elon Musk with a guy named Sam Altman, they said, we don't want Google or these people to be too powerful, so we're going to create an open source version of AI. At some point, it became so expensive that they had to take it to a private company and raise capital. If you believe that the smartest man in the world didn't know that this was going to go to a private company and be as big as it is, I don't know if I believe that. You can't tell me that they didn't know this was going to be too expensive to do as an open source. However, there are still some open source programs out there. AI is now not one of them. They will be a publicly traded company probably by the end of the year, and they are now closed source. Now, I know this is a lot of stuff. Is anything not making sense here? It's a lot.
Yeah, you scrambled my brain.
Yeah, great. So then you have claws. Claws are agents that will go into your personal computer and do work for you. I set up an agent to go into my computer to pull this report, send out an email every Friday. That is a claw. If you ever maybe say open claw, that's an open sourced agent that goes in and does things for you. But now you have a closed source and open source. You ever heard of a hyperscaler?
No. You've lost me on all this stuff, so you don't even have to ask me. Just go on with it.
Okay, perfect. Then let's go through this. Hyperscaler, those are your massive cloud producers. There's a big three, Amazon, Google, Microsoft. These are the guys that control all the cloud. This is where everybody wants to be. This is where you get to compute. Compute is just raw power to get to memory. Elon Musk is the largest single owner of compute. He has a huge place called Colossus outside of Memphis. And then Anthropic, which will be the number one AI at some point. ChatGPT became the verb where everybody's like, yeah, let's ChatGPT it, but Anthropic will be the one that eventually will come out the winner. I think ChatGPT will be the MySpace and Anthropic will be the Facebook. Maybe not as much of a gap between the two, but eventually Anthropic will be number one. And Anthropic just means man or period of man. So that's AI.
So my one takeaway from that is how cool it'd be if they changed the name of open source to herpes.
What does that mean? Open sore?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's
Okay.
where I'm at.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about Canada.
Canada sucks 'cause it's cold.
Love Canada. Not. All right, what do we got from Canada today?
Not much this week. We've been beating them down far too much. They're 1-1 in the World Cup. They tied on a last-minute goal, I guess, against Bosnia, which it turns out is not a very good team, and then they just mollywop somebody 6-0. The USA is 2-0 and has looked fantastic in both the games. They haven't played anybody of real caliber. They've advanced already. Canada's on the precipice of advancing. I think they got a tie or win to make it in. So I guess the question for you is, who goes farther in the World Cup, Canada or the USA?
USA, hands down. I think USA has a chance to make the semis. But I will say the best thing to happen in Canada this month was Wyndham Clark at the Canadian Open wearing a Jack Hughes hockey jersey and getting booed by everybody. And now Wyndham Clark is leading the U.S. Open today.
Yeah, he's up by 6 strokes going into the final round. Not very many people are under par, and I think that he's 7 under and 1 under is number 2. He's got this locked up, right?
It just goes to show you, clowning Canada brings you prosperity.
Very true.
We're going to be rich in no time.
The VGK were a dead cat. We talked about that last week. They could be a dead or alive. By the time the podcast came out, they were dead. They just got smothered that game by the Carolina Hurricane. They just got smothered that game by the
By the Carolina Hurricanes.
They just got smothered by the Carolina Hurricanes. Look, they made it farther than I thought they would. Carolina turned out to be the better team. That is the 3rd Stanley Cup in their brief history. For those that don't live in Vegas and don't understand the appeal of the Vegas Golden Knights, they own this city. This city does not give a rat's ass about the Raiders, and they're going to give even less about the A's if they ever come. But the Vegas Golden Knights mean so much to this town.
I mean, it goes back to the October 1st shootings, right? That was the inaugural season, and everybody just kind of came together, and the Knights were good, thank God.
Yeah.
It could be a two-way street here to where the Knights really fed off of what Vegas needed, and Vegas really needed a win. It was true harmony at that time, and I don't think it'll ever be forgotten. And the Knights going to the Stanley Cup Finals 3 times ever since then doesn't hurt either. We all love winners.
They've only missed a playoff once. That original season just was poetic almost. They lost to the greatest goal scorer of all time in Ovechkin and the Capitals, but the town just rallied around them.
Well, it didn't hurt either that the Capitals had a Roseau County native, TJ Oshie, on the team, which probably was the biggest proponent to that win.
I don't know who that is. Where's Roseau County?
What do you mean? In the Olympics, when we went to 8 shootouts against Russia, and we got the final goal because of TJ Oshie. He got, I believe, 2 out of 3 of his overtime penalty shot goals.
Roseau County?
Roseau County.
Oh, sounds wonderful. So here's the thing about that October 1st thing that's never really sat well with me. It was one of the greatest tragedies in the history of America. I think it was the largest mass shooting. The case has been closed, yet we still don't know why he did what he did. Like years later, it's still a mystery why a man would go up and just mow down people for for no reason, apparently. Like, they cannot find a motive. It's been since closed.
Maybe there wasn't. Maybe he's just a crazy old man that had a slip and fall in the Cosmo. He didn't get paid out on it and thought, I'll take it out on Vegas.
I guess. It's just hard.
I don't think there's a conspiracy to everything, right? Like somebody went mad and decided to start shooting people up.
I don't think there's a conspiracy. I know that they said he targeted another festival earlier in the year downtown. There were some talks that maybe he lost $1 million in gambling, so he's upset with the city. The fact that we know almost everything that happens and why it happens, except for this. I'm not saying there's a conspiracy that why we don't know. I just said it just doesn't sit well with me that we don't understand why some man would just do such a horrendous thing.
Well, it's unfortunate he decided to make that decision and a coward enough to off himself, so we couldn't get the reason. But maybe there's a note. Who knows? Floyd Mayweather back in the news.
Arrested for passing bad checks, $300K to a jeweler here in town.
Bling, bling.
He is notorious in this city for just this. I worked at a place where he had a birthday party, ran up a $60,000 plus bill and refused to pay it. They stopped trying to collect it because he was a boxer and made them a lot of money, but he's known to do this.
You'd think if he refused to pay his bills, he'd have enough money when he writes a check. So much money is this guy really blowing? I believe he has made collectively $1.3 billion and doesn't have a pot to piss in at this point, as far as we know.
He's going to fight some MMA fighter in Uzbekistan or something. That just tells you his financial situation.
I'm sure he's had a fun, eventful life, but man, at some point in time, you got to look at the future.
You have Manny Pacquiao, who became a senator in the Philippines and probably is living the greatest life. And you have Floyd, who's passing bad checks to buy bling.
I don't know. I think Pacquiao's had some money problems too. I read something about it. That's an uneducated man comment there, but I believe that was in the news.
You get punched in the face for a living. I don't know how great your decision making is.
Yeah. Probably, loading up on flags from Zimbabwe.
Well, hey, Zimbabwe's a great country. I can't wait to go visit and check out Victoria Falls. What was the name of that? The real name? Fuck it. Who cares? I mean, we care, Zimbabwe.
Yeah, you better cut that part out.
We care. This is our favorite part of the episode. Nate gives us his picks. This is
Headlocks of the day.
Headlocks.
All right, Nate, give us your headlocks.
I have 2 WNBA games tomorrow for you. The first one's at 4 o'clock. The Toronto Tempo plus 13.5 at the Atlanta Dream. I believe Toronto is going to come in and cause some nightmares for Atlanta. So Toronto's getting 13.5 points. Again, back to a couple episodes ago, plus 13.5 means they can lose by 13 or less, which I believe Atlanta will win by single digits. The Indiana Fever minus 5.5 at home versus the Phoenix Mercury. The Mercury do have a great team, but I believe the GOAT or the current GOAT in Caitlin will overcome Phoenix and cover the 5.5 points. So for those sports bettors out there, put a 2-teamer down, Toronto Tempo plus 13.5 and Atlanta Fever minus 5.5, and you will not regret it. And that is your headlock.
So Caitlin Clark seems to be getting a lot of bad publicity. I don't know if bad, but online she was the darling and everybody loved her. And recently sounds like she's been like popping off and getting into fights and complaining about things. Is it turning on her?
Yeah, she might have a little bit of an attitude problem.
Okay. I mean, I don't follow it enough.
She's been having more of a staying healthy problem is what her issue is. She does play hard and gets beat up a little bit, but she's a stud.
No, I don't follow enough, but you are the whisperer, so I'll take your insight on this. Do you know who Nostradamus is?
I do.
Yeah.
Great
Famous
predictor. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess. Anyway.
You said you have another name for him.
Well, there's a Nostradamus. Nostradamus. That's because I feel like I'm a great predictor. This show seems to be on the forefront of a lot of these amazing things that are happening in the United States. So I'll give you an example. We talked about Hunter Biden on this show becoming super popular.
Before you go ahead on that, instead of Nostradamus, I think it's probably closer to Nostradamus.
I disagree.
All right, go ahead.
So Hunter Biden, we said that he was going to be this huge star and that the left would turn on Jill and Joe. That happened. It happened almost the very next week. Hunter Biden has over 1 million Twitter followers. He's all over the place. People love him. He's going to write a book.
Well, Hunter also challenged Donald Trump Jr. to a cage fight.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
That would be outstanding.
I would like to see that.
As the WNBA whisperer, I would put a line on that. Donald Trump Jr. minus 180.
But he took Donald Trump Jr. and not Eric Trump, who's the bigger dude.
Yeah, he kind of challenged both, but I think it would be a better fight, Hunter versus Jr.
I'm going to pull this back up here. I have Donald's response. It says, you want to fight? Why don't you stick your head up my butt and fight for air?
Dun-dun-dun.
A little bit of Joe Dirt. We talked on the very last episode. We said, hey, don't you find it funny that the people that are anti-Israel, pro-Palestine are the same ones who say that we're on stolen land, even though the Israel population was in Israel first. 3 days later, Valerie Jarrett, opening the Obama presidential library, comes out and says, we are on stolen land.
We'd also like to take a moment to recognize the original inhabitants of the land upon which we are gathered today. We honor the Anishinaabe, the Council of Three Fires, the Ojibwe, the Odawa, and the Potawatomi nations.
We also talked about COVID, how the government lied to us and they censored us. They were the ones who caused this. They funded the lab. None of it was proven. Tulsi Gabbard, a ex-Democrat, came out 2 days ago and just released all of the documentation showing that Tony Fauci did in fact lie, that he did fund the Wu-Tang, whatever it is, facility.
Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding of the NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute.
They knew the origin of it. They knew that all the stuff that they were coming out with wasn't going to work. He went out and personally used the intelligence agencies to censor people, to attack people, to shut them down. And right now, nobody's really talking about that. But that is one of the biggest stories, in my opinion, because every person in this world, every person in America lived through what that man did.
And there is nothing we can do about it.
No, he's been pardoned. I would love to see somewhere like, I don't know, Iran signs a deal with the United States where we grant extradition of Tony Fauci to answer for his crimes in Iran, because every country in the world was affected by this.
That would probably settle our scrimmage with Iran tomorrow. Who cares about the Strait of Hormuz? Like, give us Tony Fauci and all's okay. Here's our nukes.
Yeah.
Here's the Strait. Give us Tony.
Well, we know both Donalds listen to this show, but Big Donald, if you can make that happen, we'd love to see. I think they should call him back to Congress. He took a pardon. When you take a pardon, you accept guilt, but you also cannot plead the fifth for those crimes. So if they call him back to Congress and they say, hey, what really happened? He can't plead the fifth. At that point, if he lies, his pardon doesn't cover new crimes. And I wonder, we clown on Joe, right? We make fun of Joe and we're like, oh yeah, he didn't know what he's doing. He was a little more savvier than we think. I think he knew all this shit and he still did it.
Well, not necessarily he knew all this shit. Somebody that worked for him knew all this shit.
These pardons, you look back on them, Donald Trump's going to pardon his kids just the way Biden pardoned Hunter. And as a father, 100%, that's the right to call. If I was the president of the United States and I had the opportunity to pardon my kids, I definitely would. Trump's definitely going to do it. This is a sad precedent. We'll probably go down this long road of people pardoning kids. I don't like pardons preemptively. I don't know what crime you committed, but here's a pardon. They should take a look at that. The constitutional right, you'd have to amend it. I don't know if Congress can do it or if they have to get the states involved. I don't know how that actually works, but these preemptive pardons are bullshit.
Well, it's going to set a bad precedent, too. If my dad's the president, I can fuck around as much as I want because I'll never be held responsible for it. I.e. Hunter Biden, that couldn't be more public news with the laptop and everything, but we just all played dumb.
Imagine if you directed Anthony Fauci to lie, to spy on Americans, to censor Americans, to cause major amounts of turmoil. And then you say, okay, I'm going to now pardon you for doing all that. That's where it gets scary. The president of the United States can allow you to break the law and then go out and pardon you right before he leaves office. It's not the government we're supposed to have, man. I don't think that's right.
We need to relook at that. Well, when we run for
agree.
president and vice president, we can put that on our agenda.
Well, this is Bob Nostradamus saying, I bet you'll start to hear more people talk about this, or at least they should. Anything else before we go? Happy Father's Day for all the fathers out there, or as I like to call it, Happy Bad Reaction Day. Reaction? No, Happy Bad. Does that make sense? Bad reaction?
Not even a little bit.
Happy bad reflex. No, like what happens if you didn't?
Happy Bad Pulling Out Day to all the fathers.
There you go. There it is. Thank you. Congratulations on not being quick enough. Quick draw. All right. Well, that concludes this episode. If you'd like to educate the uneducated men, please reach out, leave us a comment. Unless you're going to call us racist, keep that one to yourself.
All right.
Nathaniel, have a great day.
Take care.
Bye.
Bob and Nate, true American heroes.